Well, now investigators are tracking the web of fraud to other Minnesota Democrats, such as Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Many of the suspects linked to the scheme live in her district, including a restaurant owner who hosted events for her. He has since been convicted of stealing $12 million in COVID funds.
Republicans have repeatedly stated that you committed immigration fraud. Are you at all worried about a formal investigation that could perhaps lead to your deportation?
Well, you're one of those people.
I don't know what that means, but are you at all concerned?
One place where we thought we would never experience this is the U.S. goddamn states.
Ilhan Omar was never supposed to become the symbol of elite betrayal, but that's exactly what she's turning into. Behind the headlines, behind the Twitter wars and the cable news smokescreens, there's a much darker narrative unraveling, one filled with whispers of fake children, pandemic money funneled through restaurant basements, and a sudden $30 million surge in personal wealth that no salary could ever justify. It all starts in the shadows of Minnesota's Somali community, where billions, yes, billions of taxpayer dollars meant to feed hungry kids during the COVID crisis allegedly vanished into thin air. And guess where the center of that fraud network allegedly was? Right inside Omar's district, the same district where she's been photographed laughing it up at events held by men who are now convicted of stealing millions. The same district where her influence ran so deep, the fraud couldn't have survived without political silence or protection. And while the receipts mount, she acts like none of it touches her. But it does. And now even her allies are going quiet. Because this isn't just about corruption, this is about whether one of the most powerful, untouchable faces in American politics built her empire on the backs of children who never got fed, and whether she married her own brother to sneak him into the country to help her do it. Real quick. If you're all about honest, unfiltered deep dives into the biggest stories in celebrity culture, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. No fluff, no PR spin, just real talk, solid research, and stories that actually matter. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss what comes next.
Just ask stupid questions. Is this your thing?
I'm curious to get your thoughts. I mean, there's a lot of controversy around the issue. $9 billion in fraud in the state of Minnesota.
$9 billion?
You don't think so?
Really?
Yeah.
Feeding Our Future is at the core of this fraud.
Feeding Our Future, operated out of this Twin Cities office building, is a nonprofit sponsor for free meal sites of the federal child nutrition program. And when COVID hit, accused now of becoming the center of the largest pandemic fraud in the U.S.
They were running a scheme, not a child nutrition program.
When 50 Cent publicly dragged Ilhan Omar for demanding free healthcare for undocumented immigrants while U.S. veterans still suffer, the internet erupted. But it wasn't just because of the healthcare take. It was because the public's patience had already been worn thin by years of swirling scandals, unexplained riches, and unanswered questions. And suddenly, everyone remembered what's been quietly simmering under the surface for years. Allegations that Omar isn't just a politician with bad policies and all son, but a potential participant in one of the largest fraud schemes in modern American history. And while media outlets keep tripping over legalese to avoid saying it, whistleblowers have been screaming it from the rooftops. The people who stole the money knew the system, and they were allegedly protected by it. Feeding Our Future, the nonprofit at the center of the fraud, pretended to serve meals to kids who didn't exist. Millions in federal dollars poured in. And right as the fraud exploded, videos surfaced showing Ilhan Omar herself casually filming content at the very restaurants now under federal investigation. One of those restaurant owners hosted events for Omar. He's now convicted of stealing over $12 million in relief funds.
Republicans have repeatedly stated that you committed immigration fraud. Are you at all worried about a formal investigation that could perhaps lead to your deportation?
Well, you're one of those people.
I don't know what that means, but are you at all concerned?
Do I look concerned?
I guess not.
Okay.
What about the Minnesota fraud hearing? You didn't show up for that. Do you think you should have?
Why should I have?
Well, it happened in your state. Don't you want to defend your position?
There were people from my state that were there.
Okay, but why not you? I mean, there's allegations that you're complicit in the fraud. Wouldn't you want to show up?
Why would there be an allegation that I'm complicit? How would I be complicit?
Well, what about Tim
Do
Walz?
you just ask stupid questions? Is this your thing?
I'm curious to get your thoughts. I mean, there's a lot of controversy around the issue. $9 billion in fraud in the state of Minnesota.
$9 billion?
You don't think so?
Really?
Yeah, and counting. Probably more, honestly. Do you think that's fake news or what?
That is more than half of the resources that are allocated.
Okay.
So you genuinely, like, your brain has told you that it is possible for half of the resources.
I'm just going off of what
for our public service to like half disappear, is what you're saying.
Countless Minnesota state representatives, whistleblowers have come
listen
forward.
to yourself, though.
I'm
Like,
trying.
just think about that for a second.
Maybe if you showed up at the hearing, you would
Just-
know that
just think
whistleblowers
about
are
that
being
for a second.
retaliated against for exposing the fraud. Why is that? Why are they being
But
tracked and
just
traced?
think about what you're asking. Who is tracing whistleblowers?
Minnesota state officials, Tim Walz, anyone who dares to speak out against the government.
Tim Walz is doing something to
Yeah,
whistleblowers?
why is Tim Walz stepping down if he's, innocent? Why isn't he running for re-election?
Because he's had 8 years to serve as our great governor.
He was going to be vice president of the United States if Kamala won.
Yes, and he would have been an excellent vice
But
president.
now he's stepping
much
down.
better than the person we have right now.
Now he's stepping down as governor. Any comment on that? You don't think he's maybe complicit?
He is focusing on trying to make sure our state remains great. All right, have a nice day.
Thank you. You too.
Please read.
Still think she didn't know? Or was she just too busy to notice that one of her biggest local supporters was running a fake meals operation under her nose? Either way, this story doesn't stop with meals. Because what people are now piecing together is far more explosive than any one fraud case. Let's talk about the brother. The accusation that Ilhan Omar married her own brother to skirt immigration law has long been dismissed by the media as conspiracy, but social media investigators have never let it go, and now, with everything else crashing down, it's resurfacing with new intensity. Omar married Ahmed Noor Said Elmi in 2009. He was a British national. Years later, her divorce filing claimed she had no contact with him after 2011, but photos emerged placing them together much later. Documents contradicted timelines. And then came the bombshell, speculation that Elmi is actually her biological brother, and that she married him in order to bring him into the U.S. legally. She's never publicly debunked this with proof, just aggressive deflection and personal attacks. When cornered by reporters, Omar often mocks them or plays dumb. Do I look concerned? She laughed when asked about the fraud scandal, but she should be, because while she keeps waving away accusations as political attacks, her wealth has ballooned at a rate that almost no one in Congress can explain. When she entered Congress in 2018, Omar had a net worth of negative $65,000 buried in student loans, credit card debt, and car payments. Yet somehow, in just a few short years, she now allegedly has a net worth nearing $30 million. So, let's do the math. Her salary as a representative is $174,000 per year. Even if she never spent a dime, it would take 170 years to save what she now reportedly holds. So, where did the money come from?
Omar entered Congress in 2018. As the poorest members of Congress, she had a negative net worth, negative $65,000 due to student loan and credit card and card debt. You'll find that at $174,000 a year, if she saved every single penny, she'd be worth a couple $100,000 after she paid off her debt. But that's not the case. Ilhan Omar is insanely rich. She's worth $30 million.
That's where her third husband, Tim Minette, comes into the picture. A political consultant and partner at a firm that just so happened to rake in millions from Omar's campaign funds. That's right, Omar's own campaign sent massive payouts legal under current FEC rules to the firm her now husband was profiting from. And the firm didn't just help her win, it allegedly helped funnel her success into wealth fast. Some political watchdogs say it's legal corruption, plain and simple. Others think it's just the tip of a much deeper iceberg, especially once you factor in the legislation she pushed through. In 2022, Ilhan Omar supported the Meals Act, intended to protect nutrition programs for children during emergencies. Sounds noble, until you realize the same loopholes created by this act are what whistleblowers say were exploited in the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme. They claim the act deregulated federal oversight of meal programs in Minnesota, creating an opening so wide that fake daycares and sham food sites flooded the system with false claims. And the timing? Chillingly perfect. The scam surged right as federal guardrails were loosened. Some are now asking, was this legislation passed in good faith, or was it the master key to a $500 million grift? And even if she wasn't directly involved, how could she not know it was being abused in her own backyard?
Omar passed the Meals Act in 2022. This is an act that majorly deregulated the federal government's oversight of meals programs for children. This is the same act that was used by her friends in Minneapolis in order to defraud the federal government of nearly $500 million. Ilhan Omar even worked at the kitchen that was committing the fraud, feeding the fake children, the real problem in Minneapolis, the daycares and the food center.
In the hearings that followed, she didn't show up. When confronted about that, she simply shrugged. "Why should I have?" she asked. That's been her posture all along: denial, followed by arrogance, followed by silence. But her critics aren't staying silent. Former President Donald Trump went as far as calling her a fake congresswoman on social media, saying she should be in jail or even worse, a direct call for deportation. And while you may want to write that off as political hyperbole, the undercurrent of outrage is growing stronger by the day, especially now that whistleblowers are reportedly being retaliated against for speaking up. Activists say they've been tracked, intimidated, silenced, while Omar and others act like nothing happened. And yet, even in the face of these claims, Omar continues to frame herself as the victim, pointing to racial profiling, Islamophobia, and political bias. She says her son was pulled over by ICE agents despite being a U.S. citizen. She says her family is being targeted unfairly.
And they are racially profiling. They are looking for young men who look Somali that they think are undocumented. My son was born here, so was the young man that they harassed. And he did say, you know, they did come into the masjid while he was there praying. They didn't do anything.
They came into the mosque.
Yes, and they left. And then, yes, he did see them at the restaurant. They just walked around and kind of left. But yesterday, after he made a stop at Target, he did get pulled over by ICE agents, and once he was able to produce his passport ID, they did let him go.
So your son went to Target last night with his passport.
Mm-hmm. He always carries it with him.
In case he gets pulled over.
Yes.
Which he did by ICE.
Yes.
She says she's under attack not because of corruption, but because of who she is. But that doesn't explain the restaurant photos. It doesn't explain the vanished billions. It doesn't explain the donor ties to indicted fraudsters. And it sure doesn't explain how a woman who started in debt now sits on a wealth pile that makes some Wall Street execs jealous. The problem isn't who she is, it's what she's done and what she refuses to explain. The American people can smell a cover-up. And when you add in the viral resurfaced clip where she calls the country the U.S. goddamn states, even casual voters start raising eyebrows. Elon Musk himself replied to the video, saying the penalty for that kind of comment should be whatever the penalty is for treason. Harsh words, but it echoes a sentiment many are feeling. When the people entrusted to protect our resources mock the country, enable theft, and get rich off policies they write, we're no longer dealing with public servants. We're dealing with something else entirely. And now, the question isn't whether Ilhan Omar will survive the political firestorm, it's whether this scandal is the final crack in an already fractured legacy. The fraud happened. The question is, how deep does it go, and how high up does it reach? Because one thing's certain, this isn't just about feeding our future anymore. It's about whether one of the most protected women in Washington knew what was happening the whole time, and whether the next set of indictments will finally put her name on the list. This story is far from over, but with $9 billion missing, $30 million gained, and a growing trail of whistleblowers, receipts, and red flags, it might just be the beginning of the end.